Here are some hints and tips on how to cope on Tuesday with the CIE First Language English Paper 2. I'll be using the June 2015 Paper 22, the Canals paper, as my example. First of all, question 3. Yes, I'd start here. According to the number of marks, this should take you 45 minutes. Try, however, to get it done in 35 to 40 to leave yourselves more time for questions 1 and question 2, which are more challenging. First of all, the notes, the 15 bullet points. Remember, these don't have to be your own words. Secondly, don't make them too long. Examiners can only credit 1 point per line. And very importantly, do read the question to make sure that you focus on what they want. For example, in this paper, the fact that Charles I of Spain ordered a survey for a canal route was actually completely irrelevant to the question, the challenges that were faced during the construction of the canal. Make sure that your wording is specific. One problem in this paper was the point about the Calabria cut. That's number 19 here. So just saying that it was insufficient, a word taken from the passage, that didn't get a mark. Now that word, after all, can mean many things. You needed insufficient width, or simply it had to be widened to get the mark. That's point 19 there. Try to avoid the examiner giving you this symbol, REP, repetition. Sometimes it is entirely obvious. I had little sympathy, really, with candidates who wrote down landslides and then expected another mark for writing down mudslides later on. They're the same. Now, more tricky is when the text gives a fairly general point and then an example of it. That is likely to count as one. For example, here, this is the 7th bullet point. You can't just have "it was expensive" or "costly" as one point, and then say "it cost millions of dollars." Ultimately, that's the same thing. And similarly, just be wary of having too many points that are on the same sort of idea. For example, "it made a French company bankrupt" also comes under the category of expense, of money. And finally, for 3b, the summary itself, don't lift whole sentences, and avoid phrases that stand out. For example, "lock-based canal" was a favourite for me. Write fluently, link your points if you can, remember connectives and discourse markers. And if the summary suggests you organise it in a particular way, for example, in another paper, "what are the advantages and disadvantages," then do so. On now to question 1. This is the hard one. So, read the question. Highlight the voice. This is really important, the point of view. Cross out the word count. Okay? Examiners ignore it. No, this isn't clear enough. Yes, that's better. Cross it out completely. Annihilate it. And highlight the 3 bullet points. Now, this is incredibly important. You really should organise your response into 3 paragraphs based on these, and you absolutely must include all 3. Now, the 3rd bullet point, A3, is the hardest, and we'll go through this in a moment. An uneven focus on the bullet points, which normally means the candidate has not done enough on A3, that is the easiest way for the examiner to find an excuse to put you in a lower band. So look at the mark scheme here. Band 3, there is uneven focus on the bullets. Band 4, one of the bullets may not be addressed. So if you don't cover A3 at all, you're most likely to get band 4, that's just 6 out of 15. And even if A1 and A2 are excellent, top A star standard, band 3 really is your absolute maximum, and that would be a shame. So in general, aim for a wide variety of points. Look for clues on how to develop them. So A2 here is your feelings about Zelda's behaviour on the first 2 days of the holiday. So the obvious points are how she behaved, and the development was how you felt. Sometimes the bullet point will actually be divided into 2. it will have two phrases separated by and, or you can rephrase it to make that clearer. So for this one, it's 1. Zelda's behaviour, and 2. Bob's feelings about it. Don't forget the details. Look at the mark scheme for A1 here. So you've got the general points in bold, and then the details are points that are actually taken from the passage to back it up. So basically you make a fairly general point. Let's imagine it's the name of a category or something. So for example, food. I was looking forward to dining well, eating out on the trip. And the detail is, I had heard that there's a restaurant that had a fine reputation. Okay, so you get the tick there for the detail and the A1 point for making the actual point, the idea. Just a word of warning, don't get carried away developing a single point for too long. A few of ours did this in 2014, you probably remember from the papers we went over. And you do need to have a nice variety of points for each bullet point. Now for A3. As I've said, omitting this is the easiest way to lose lots of marks. We've been through this in class, but look at the examples here from various other past papers. So this one, Summer 1523. We see clearly here how we can divide it up into two things, how life will be and how that is attractive. And remember, in class we looked at, okay, what do they mean by how life will be? What is life, basically? Life can refer to your relationships, your family. It can refer to what you do, your work. It can refer to where you live, your house. It can refer to personal things, your health. Okay, so just think carefully about the wording of this and what you can get out of it. I'd also like to remind you of this exercise we did when we first encountered this paper. We looked at the specimen paper, The Beast of Bodmin Moor. So this is all on Firefly, by the way. This is how we planned point 3 of the specimen paper. So we looked at what A3 contained and we thought of some questions we could ask ourselves to help structure it. So ideas connected to the beast, the locals, and future predictions. And on this slide here, you can see how we actually developed this into a really good A3 paragraph. The next one, November 2015-21, which we went through. Why you cannot face going home and back to work. So, two ways to divide that up. Well, more than two in fact. Easiest one, why you cannot face going home and back to work. So the first thing, home, put that in green then. Home, let's say that's your personal life. So poor health, ambition, dreams, worries and so on. Okay. Back to work is actually the work-related stuff. So the career, his colleagues, the busy city and so on. But also, why you cannot face going home and back to work. More simply, that's implying that your home and work situation is bad, obviously, but also, as we see in the bottom two bullet points here, you can't face going home, back to work, because where you are at the moment is much better. Okay. So looking at the mark scheme, the first few points go into what we talked about before, about why going home and back to work is a bad thing. And those final 2 points right at the bottom are why staying here is better. So the beauties of nature around him and sense of responsibility to the animals and so on. A similar strategy, I think, for this one here, November 2015-23, life in the new settlement and Arjun's plans once it's complete. Remember, it will all be hinted at in the passage. The points are already there, essentially. Just try not to sum it up with something brief and dramatic. So Bob and Zelda get a divorce, for example, in the Canals paper. Finally now, on to question 2, the language question. First of all, let's cross out that word count. It's not helpful. First of all, remember balance. If you only have time for 6 points, rather than 8 in total, then you must have 3 for A and 3 for B. If they're good, you can still get 7 to 8 out of 10 for them. If you do 4 plus 2, however, then you'll be marked down, limited to 6 out of 10 maximum, really. So you can see that reflected in the mark scheme right here. Secondly, choices. Now, imagery, as it said in the question, is really important. Generally, I'm not worried about this. All of you are making sounds choices. Just remember that they don't care about sentence structure at all here. In addition, I can't remember reading anything about alliteration or onomatopoeia, etc. That was actually worth crediting. You should focus on effect, not literal meaning. Remember the iceberg technique, the onion method, all those underlying meanings and impressions beneath the surface, literal meaning. I find, for example, writing as if or whatever sometimes works nicely. You're looking at feelings, suggestions. Just avoid repeating more generalised comments. So, for example, in the first paragraph on the canals paper, I saw quite a few very generic responses that kept repeating, "This emphasises the power of the storm." Yes, but why and how? On to the second paragraph of this paper. One thing that I noticed candidates did very well in was a very nice image like tiny translucent pearls. Okay, so you can see that there's a lot you can say about that. Literally, yes, the water droplets are small and round and shiny. But if we go a little deeper, shiny with light passing through them, okay, beautiful, precious, fragile perhaps, something to be cherished. Okay, so you see there, you're really going beneath surface meaning. It's good to have a topic sentence for each part of your answer, commenting on either the overall effect or impression, or maybe identifying any extended imagery or comparison that runs across the entire paragraph. Remember, for example, in the youth hostel paper, that was June 2014, I think, when Mrs. Wilkie storms in, there was lots of militaristic vocabulary, okay, and it's good to just show the examiner that you can see if there's a thread running through the whole paragraph. However, you don't have to link your 4 points together. I gave high marks essentially for candidates who wrote a list of bullet points. This isn't like the literature paper. Examiners aren't looking for a developed argument. Okay, well that's it. So, good luck. Remember, all resources, all lesson material and lots of past papers with exemplar responses and so on are all on Firefly. Enjoy.